Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about a passage that has been speaking deeply to my heart lately, and it's found in John chapter 9. This chapter tells the story of a man who was born blind. Jesus healed him, and instead of everyone rejoicing, many people questioned him and even rejected his testimony. As I was reading this chapter, one verse especially stood out to me, and that is in John chapter 9, verse 31, which says, "Now we know that God heareth not sinners, but if any man be a worshiper of God and doeth his will, him he heareth." Now this statement was made by the man who had been healed. He was responding to religious leaders who were trying to convince him that Jesus could not be from God. The religious leaders were focused on arguments. The healed man was focused on what God had done. And that brings me to something I believe many believers need to understand today. Not everyone will receive your testimony. Not everyone will believe what God has done in your life. Not everyone will celebrate your freedom, your healing, or your transformation. Sometimes the people who should be the most receptive are the very ones who reject it. That is exactly what happened in John chapter 9. The religious leaders questioned him repeatedly. They doubted him, they challenged him, they tried to pressure him. But eventually, the man gave one of the most powerful testimonies recorded in Scripture. And that is in John chapter 9, verse 25. And it says, "One thing I know, that whereas I was blind, now I see." What a powerful statement. He did not have every answer, and he could not explain everything. He did not win the argument through intelligence or debate. He simply testified to what Jesus had done. And that is what God calls all of us to do. Sometimes we feel pressure to convince people. We feel pressure to make everyone understand. We feel pressure to make people believe. But that is not our responsibility. Our responsibility is obedience. Our responsibility is to tell the truth. Our responsibility is to testify what God has done. The outcome belongs to God. The man in John chapter 9 could not control how people responded. He could only tell the truth. And in the end, something beautiful happened. The religious leaders cast him out, but Jesus came looking for him. Think about that. The people rejected him, but Jesus received him. The people pushed him away, but Jesus drew near. And perhaps there are some people listening today who know exactly what that feels like. Maybe you've shared your testimony and people ignored it. Maybe you've tried to warn others and nobody listened. Maybe you've spoken about what the Lord has done in your life and people dismissed it. And if that's you, I want to encourage you today. Do not measure your obedience by people's response. Measure it by your faithfulness to God. The man born blind was not responsible for convincing the Pharisees. He was responsible for telling the truth. And that's exactly what he did. As followers of Jesus, we are called to do the same. Speak the truth, share what God has done, remain faithful, and trust God with the results. Because at the end of the day, our responsibility is obedience. The outcome belongs to God. Thank you for listening, and you have a blessed day.